Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Nicole Alvino, welcome to the conversation today.
Thanks for having me, John.
It's a real pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from London. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about the role of communication in employee experience and how intelligent communication can be used to boost employee engagement and connection. I'm really thrilled to have a chance to chat with you about this. It's a really important topic. And as we get started, I wanted to share Nicole's bio with everybody. Nicole Alvino is a visionary entrepreneur and CEO with a passion for transforming the employee experience. As the founder and chief executive officer of First Up, a leading enterprise SaaS company, Nicole is responsible for driving innovation and growth in employee experience, engagement, and communications. She believes that investing in employees is key to building high-performance cultures that improve the top and bottom lines of any business, and is proud to call 50 of the world's most admired companies customers. Nicole's commitment to leader transparency and employee experience began after her first job at Enron was the foundation of how she built and led the first company she founded, Derma Lounge, and continues in her work at First Up. I'm going to pause there. There's so much more to your background, but is there anything in particular you would like to highlight by way of your background or personal context before we dive on in further?
I just think that I've experienced maybe the worst type of employee experience from a company that obviously goes bankrupt, where
Right.
leaders were not only not transparent, but actively lying to employees. And so it's been a real passion of mine, one, to give a way to leaders to have direct, authentic way to connect with their people and every single worker, especially those on the front line. And so it's just been so exceptional to be able to see CEOs of some of the biggest companies, from Andy Jassy to on down, using our platform to connect with their people and work to make their work life better.
Yeah, awesome. And I am intrigued. I've read all the case studies about Enron. We've heard all about it. We study it in business school. There's, of course, the cook in the book stuff, but there's all the culture stuff, the toxic culture stuff that was going on there too. Of course, you were living it firsthand, and unfortunate that this was your first real job at Enron. What can you tell us about your experience there, and how that really influenced you to where you're at today and starting First Up?
Yeah, I think it's the thing of, look, what people do. Culture is not necessarily what you say, but what you do and how you act. And yes,
Yeah.
it needs to start from the leaders, but it really is what everyone is doing when the leaders are not in the room. And so unfortunately, you had a case at Enron where the leaders, not all of them, but some of them were doing the wrong things, and
Yeah.
that permeated through. But it was really the model that was sent, because I mean, you know this, that the day-to-day is driven by first line managers and people doing the work. And so that's what, I really want to help focus on, is making sure that all of those people feel directly connected to a company's mission and purpose, and really understand how they can, and what their work is meaningful and important, and it ladders up to that the company's purpose. And I believe, and we believe at First Step, that it is around communication as that connective tissue and as the way to bring people together.
Yeah. And obviously, at any company, there's variation, right? At great companies, there's variation. There's great people and there's not great people. At,
Yeah.
a toxic company, a company like Enron that ultimately folds, and then you have all the negative case studies, and, everyone talks about it.
Yeah.
There's not great people, but there's also great people that were
Yeah.
there too, that find themselves trapped, right?
Mhm.
In a really negative situation. And so it is, I appreciate that. Like, it's really worth noting that there were plenty of good people at Enron. It's a huge company. There's plenty
Mhm.
of really good people there that find themselves stuck and trapped wanting to make a difference from within and finding themselves, in a bad situation. And so it's worth acknowledging that. And it's worth acknowledging too that a culture, you can find yourself in those situations where it creeps over time. Like
Mhm.
Enron didn't get there overnight, right? It got there slowly over time as little choices were made by top leadership, compromises were made over time, and slowly but surely you get to the point where it became what it became, and ultimately the house of cards fell, right? And it collapsed, and the facade, couldn't stand up.
Mhm.
And like you said, it's not, when we're talking about culture, it's not just what you say, it's what you do, and you can't fake it. So you can say all the right things all you want, and lots of companies do this. You can say all the right things, and even when you have all the intention behind saying all the right things, aspirational goals and intentions aren't enough. You have to actually strive to do the right things behind what you're saying and behind the aspiration. And nobody expects you to be perfect, but they do expect you to strive and to try. And they know when you're totally BSing it, and they know when you're not making the effort.
Mhm.
And ultimately, that's what, the house of cards is, and ultimately it comes tumbling down. You can't fake it forever.
Yeah, What You Do Is Who You Are is one of my favorite business books. It's a Ben Horowitz book about exactly that. It's the actions, what you do every single day, and in those little moments, the sum of all of those things are what the culture is. And that's why it's so important to, yes, it needs to be said at the top, but it also needs to come from the bottom and everyone in between to really understand, feel a real obligation. Yes, a first connection, but then an obligation to uphold that.
So at first up, you're focusing on employee experience, you're focusing on connection. What are some of those most important factors that you find in working with your clients are important to focus on to improve employee experience for organizations?
Yeah, and we really focus on delivering hyper personalized experiences that are individual to the person, obviously, and across all the different moments that matter to them as an individual, as well as the big moments in a company. And so, if we think about, we've really taken a page out of the consumer experience book. And if you think about anything we do in our personal lives, whether it's banking, shop on Amazon or from Nike, were delivered not only very beautiful, immersive types of experiences. These experiences meet us where they are, right? I can be on my email and I'll get a lovely email from Nike. I'll be in my app and I'll get a push notification. And then those brands continue to learn about us. They learn about our buying behavior. If I'm about to buy my son some Nike shorts and I
Mhm.
don't quite purchase, then I get a reminder saying,
Right.
"Oh, now we're going to give you 10% off or 10% off plus free shipping." And so it's these little nudges. In that case, they just want me to buy the things.
Mhm.
But it works. And there's a reason why marketers and, marketing automation has become an entire segment now of marketing because it works. And so what we've done is taken that same notion of campaigns. And the first thing we did when we founded the company, and two pieces, we said, look, we need a better way to reach the front line. 80% of the world's workforce does not sit behind a desk.
Yeah.
Yet 10 years ago, no one was really thinking about them, and we wanted to create a really beautiful, engaging mobile app. And we had this notion of tech equity, right? The front line, someone who's driving our trucks and serving our food and cleaning our hotel rooms should have that same type of experience as a CEO. Um, and also, there needs to be a way to bring this notion of campaigns to the employee experience, to employee communications, to help really manage that people experience from the moment that someone joins, or even in that pre-hire, through all of those moments to the moment that they become an alum. And if we think about those consumer marketing principles, everything is a touch point. It's again, hyper personalized, beautiful, immersive experiences. Obviously, with AI, we can learn more and even be more personalized and eventually guide them through a delightful experience to get them to the outcome, which is be a high performing employee, really feel connected to
Hmm.
their company's purpose, and ultimately stay there for a long time.
Yeah, let's talk more about that personalization.
Mhm.
It's interesting because we become hyper personalized and hyper individualized
Mhm.
in the markets, and this has been a trend for 50 years.
Yeah.
And we've just become more and more attuned, and the technologies have allowed us to become more and more personalized. And I
Mhm.
think about like automobiles, for example. Like 100 years ago, there's like what, three options when you wanted to
Right.
get an automobile, and over time, you've gotten dozens and dozens and dozens of options, and now we're to the point where like everything has so many personalizations to the point where yeah, you log onto a computer and it, because of cookies and all of the different things, like it can give you exactly the experience that you need to be optimized towards purchasing and capturing your attention and whatever. And then there's good and bad to all of that, and we can have that debate anytime. But bringing that in, that consumer experience in to the employee experience, their benefits,
Mhm.
and trying to take a day off, or do leave, or any of those types of things, like traditionally that's been frustrating. Like the traditionally those interfaces have not been user friendly. It's been really a challenge, uh
Mhm.
to be able to make those more seamless, to make those something that you can do like a couple clicks in instead of like 10 clicks in and trying to navigate the maze. That's going to be something that's really valuable to
Mhm.
employees, and to recognize the entire like employee life cycle with an organization, and to make that entire employee experience something that is positive and valuable, in a day and age where the labor market, it ebbs and flows, and there's pendulum swings and whatever. But by and large, what we know and what we see is that there's skill gaps in the labor market, and that it's tight and hard for organizations, more or less, to find good people and to find the people that they need. And so you can't afford to have people have bad experiences with your organization, because word of mouth spreads. And if you want to get good people, you have to help them have good experiences, so not only you can keep them or have them
Mhm.
come back to you in the future, but their friends and their family, right?
Exactly. And just like you said, think about our expectations, just like you said, the consumer experience from 100 years ago, even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago,
Yeah.
right? I expect that Amazon knows what I need before I need it and gives me recommendations. And that's just how I go through my life. We will get to a point, you said, the labor market, yes, it ebbs and flows, but the bottom line is the best talent, there's always a war for the best talent, no
Yep.
matter which type of market we're in. And so, in order to do that, and I firmly believe that we will get delivering an exceptional employee experience is a differentiator. And it will be something that the best companies in the world need to provide in order to first attract the top talent and then retain them throughout and provide them this exceptional employee experience. And just like you said, that I use the words irresistible and exceptional and delightful. Current experiences are kind of the opposite of that. And so that's what we endeavor to deliver those truly exceptional experiences. And it's great. We look at the companies that, the most admired companies or companies that are top performers, whether it's in, whichever index, whether it's the Dow or the FTSE, but it is no surprise that the brands and the companies who do invest in their people are the ones who are outperforming the market. And so that's very much when I say this is something that it's a top line opportunity,
Yeah.
top and bottom line opportunity, right? It's those that are investing, they're helping anyone who's customer facing. We have Hilton and Hyatt and Rosewood and Tesco as a big retail hospitality. We're correlating the engagement within the communications within all those moments to the type of guest experience that they are providing. which is top line growth, right? You look at healthcare, the type of experience you're getting from your caregivers, that's going to be a patient experience, which directly correlates to the
Hmm.
top line. And then if you look on the other side, the people who don't have this experience, they're disconnected from the company, they're disconnected from their manager, they're not given what they need, whether it's something in a moment that they need extra help benefits, whether it's a medical leave, whether it's bereavement, and they're searching, they don't know where to find
Right.
something. What if something can be delivered to them to guide them through that really hard time, right? They're going to be more loyal. And we've seen that again with correlating the use of our platform within those moments and correlating it to lower attrition for top performers. So again, we think it's just something
Yeah.
that the highest performing companies must invest in this, and it's a win-win. It's a win for the people. It's a win for the company, and so that's what I love about this business.
Yeah. When you're dealing with a death in the family, for example, that's not the time. That's a stressful time. That's not the time you want to have to dig through uh, trying to figure out your company's policy and where to fill
Right,
out the right form and
right.
whatever, like, right. Absolutely, you want it as seamless as possible. I mean, anytime you
Mhm.
want it as seamless as possible, but especially during those times, or you have a
That's
sick
right.
kid, or whatever, right.
Mhm.
um, you touched on deskless workers and how oftentimes they get left behind in all of this conversation. I think that's really important. um, let's talk a little bit more about thinking with them in mind, but also more generally about this conversation around connection. So
Mhm.
a big part of employee experience is this idea of connection, especially during the pandemic, post-pandemic, remote work, hybrid work. um, this became a big challenge, and I think it's an ongoing challenge. It's not something we've totally figured out.
No.
uh, Many employers have now established back to office mandates, in part because they're concerned about this connection piece. There's other reasons too, and we can have those debates. But
Right.
I think that's one of the pieces, right? Is they want collaboration, they want connection, they understand
Yeah.
that that's important. What what do you see the role of connection as being, in terms of employee experience overall? How does that relate to deskless workers and this broader remote or hybrid type of
Yeah.
distributed workforce environment? And what can we do to improve overall employee experience within this environment?
Right. I mean, look, I think connection is the most fundamental and at the foundation. And if right, we're first of all not connected. So first you take in that this meaning of connection. One is, can you actually receive something from your company? And is there an opportunity for you to have a two-way conversation? So I think that's point one. And there are still plenty of companies in the world who don't have that baseline connection or don't have it consistently,
Yeah.
especially with their deskless workforce. And so that, I believe and we believe that's a huge problem. And so there's the kind of foundational piece of solving that. Let's actually give them a way to connect with technology in a way that works for them, right? If they don't have a a Teams login, or they don't have a desktop, do they have a mobile phone? Is that a place where they can get work? Do they have screens if they work on a manufacturing line? Is that a way for them just to have some level of connection? And first I'm talking about digital, and then we'll talk about the person. But I think there's, at least from a digital place, we at least have to be able to reach every single worker. And I think that part's
Hmm.
important. So when we work through our maturity model with our customers, it's kind of, we believe that people are starting in some way in a disconnected way. So until you can reach 100% of your workforce, right, where you kind of can't get past step one. And then once you can reach them, then you start to say, okay, let's define what that connection means. And let's look at different employee personas, and let's look at what they need based on who they are, their type of work. And then let's start to map their based on their personas, their journeys, and what they might need, and what connection looks and feels like for them, right? Because connection is different if you're driving a truck, right? Maybe there's
Yeah.
connection with your end customer. Maybe there's connection with other drivers that are around the country, and maybe there's a way that to show pride in showing off your cab and what you're doing with your cab, something that's a little fun and lighthearted. That's a way
Right.
to connect, right? In a way and in a role that's very, very isolated. And so at least there's kind of a shared meaning or purpose. And so what we try to find is how do we take those opportunities for shared meaning and purpose and bring them to life digitally. Also knowing that in certain types of work, there is no substitute for that in-person collaboration and in-person time where you have to get some work done. But it's and also what can we and how can we extend those moments digitally, because we are remote, we are hybrid, and that's going to stay.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's no way around it. And obviously
Yeah.
it depends on the industry, it depends on
Right.
the type of work, the
Yeah.
role you have, it depends on the product and service you're
Mhm.
providing. It depends on
Right.
all of that, but there's guiding principles overall. And ultimately, like you said, uh, employee experience can't be compromised regardless of all those things, and connection cannot be compromised regardless of the particulars of all of those things. And so I think it sometimes it's easy for us to just think, well, we have all these deskless workers, we're a distributed team, and we think, well, there's nothing we can really do about that, and we just give it a pass, and we just say, well, there's nothing we can do about it, and that's not true. Like there are lots of things we can do about it if we're thoughtful, if we're
Mhm.
intentional, and if we put steps in place, both from a technology standpoint, like you said.
Mhm.
There are apps, there are tools, there are lots of things that intentionally we can put in place to make sure that we keep people connected, to keep them engaged, to make sure that they have a smooth, positive experience.
Yeah,
But there are also other mechanisms. There are other things that we can do to just make sure that people have an overall good experience. And so let's just keep those things in mind. Let's put it as a priority. If we do that, we're going to attract better people. We're going to retain better people. We're going to have better word of mouth. We're going to ultimately just have a better employer brand, which is going to pay off. Like you said, top of line, bottom line, overall, it's going to be better for everybody. And that's what we want, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Are you interested in a sales job at First Up?
Possibly someday, maybe. Nicole, this has just been a real pleasure. I know at the time I need to let you go here in just a minute, but before we wrap things up, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Sure. So you can find me, Nicole Alvino, on LinkedIn, and I'm Nicole at firstup.io. Shoot me an email. Visit our site. Lots of great customer stories that really elevate the importance of what we do and really delivering on our mission of making work better for every worker. And every single company should have this as a focus, to drive the best results for their people, their customers, and their business. So, John, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you again. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Nicole can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.